In the previous video of this series, we created this pattern that you see on the left, and now let's make it three-dimensional like what we see here on the right. So I'm going to zoom out here and we can see this is what we created before. I'm actually going to color code these so everything stays lined up. You could right click on your underlay, go to set color, and I think it's maybe this green. All right. So as you can see, the first thing we're going to need is this shape 3D. So let's select our transform, and we've got our shape 3D here. We can just click on that, and we want to move it outside of that group. Press 2 to preview that on the right. One thing you'll notice that this is a square. If I look at the original, it's elongated. And if we want our shape to fit a 1920 by 1080 or a similar ratio background, we're gonna have to stretch this out. So let's make sure our shape is selected. Click on the transform section, go to scale, uncheck this lock XYZ, take the X and stretch it out. So if you need to, you could always adjust the settings. You could select your Jersey holes, double click that, select the main one. Let's zoom in here so we could see it right over the edge and drag it out. So if you need wider holes or more narrow holes, or you need to change the horizontal, you got control for all that. Then we've got these two displaces that we're going to add. The displaces themselves, they're really not that important. The more important thing is this fast noise here. So if I press 1 to preview it on the left, we got one fast noise like that. And I press 1 here, we got one fast noise like that. So one more detailed, one less detailed. So let's do that. Select the shape 3D, press shift spacebar, DISP, we've got displace 3D, perfect. Let's also add a fast noise. We've got it right here, click and drag, and then click the output, drag it to the displace. Let's preview this by pressing 2. All right, so that's a bit wild and out of control. Also, you could see there's probably not enough geometry here for a smooth distortion. You could especially see that on the edges where you see these straight lines. So select your shape 3D, make sure you're on this controls tab here, and adjust the subdivisions. Bring it up until you don't see it getting any smoother. I don't know, maybe we could go up to 70. I don't want to go too high. If I need to adjust this later, I will, but you want this to be as low as possible while still looking smooth. And let's go to the displace. Let's adjust the scale. This is way too much. All right, that looks better. So now what I want to do is select this fast noise, press 1 to preview it. And I always do this, click on color, take this alpha and bring it up so we see colors instead of transparencies. Now, if we go back to the original, if I press 1 on this one and press 1 on this one, they're kind of at an angle here. So let's try and recreate that. Go to this fast noise, press 1 to preview it. Now we want to click on the noise tab and we want to uncheck lock XYZ, and then we could adjust the scale and adjust the angle. Also contrast. I don't want it to be too contrasty. Adjusting the brightness, something like this, nice and subtle. And we're going to want a little bit of seethe in here. So if we look at that, you'll see we just have some generic general movement, but we have no direction. You always need direction in your life. So what I'm going to do is add an expression, and to save time, I'm just going to reuse the one that I have here. So, and I'll show you exactly how to do this, but I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go to our fast noise, right click on center, and go to expression, type this in here. I'm just going to paste point, open parentheses, time divided by 1,000, comma, space, time divided by 1,400. Okay, so now we've got some direction, movement. All we need to do is take these and Control C, deselect, Control V, drag the output of this one onto this one. Press 2 to preview that. So this is way out of control. Let's press 1 to preview our other fast noise. And I'm going to take some of these settings down. So let's go to scale. And under scale, we can start to adjust these numbers here. Let's bring this down. Let's bring this down. I'm going to bring the contrast up a little bit just because it's kind of hard to see what's going on. And then when I do that, to compensate, I could go select the displace here and take this scale down to make it more subtle. Also, I want to randomize it a bit, so I'm going to go back to fast noise, and I'm just going to slide this seethe here so it looks different. We could adjust the seethe rate slightly here for a little bit more variety so that the movement is not exactly the same. Let's increase these numbers here. 14, let's make this, I don't know, 17. Even take the detail and bring that down a little bit. So you can see it's very subtle. I might need to bring some of these numbers back up just so I could see a result. And if we come back to displace one, turn this on and off, we've got this subtle wave and we got this more detailed wave. And for this more detailed one, if I want to come back in the fast noise and take this detail up, you could see we are getting detail, but things are getting a little bit tessellated. So I might need to go back into shape 3D, take this from 70 to 100, see if that smooths it out. Maybe 200. So that is smoother, but I still don't like the look here. So I'm going to go back into this fast noise, maybe hit discontinuous, maybe not, click inverted. All right, so it looks like maybe need to come back into this displace and reduce the scale a bit here. Okay, so this is starting to look good. So this is the look that we got here, and it is definitely something that you're gonna wanna go back and fine tune and get all the right settings, but this is the basic setup. You can see here, we need a merge 3D, and that way we could connect a camera and a light and then output that to a render. So let's do that now. Selecting this second displace, click this button here that connects a merge 3D. With the merge 3D selected, we could click our camera and let's move this in a better spot. If you like spotlights, you could just click your merge 3D, click the spotlight. I'm gonna add a point light. I think it's a little bit easier to work with. So with merge 3D selected, shift space bar, POIN, point light, click on that, press enter, move that above. Let's click and drag here so we could actually see it. Now we don't see the effect. We can now select our merge 3D, click this button here to get a renderer, and let's press 2 to preview that. And we don't see anything. This is a camera issue. So let's select our merge 3D and press 1 to preview that on the left and select our camera. Let's get a little bit bigger window over here and move the camera back and keep moving it back. All right, until we're roughly in place. And now I'll just line it up, make sure I see the top and bottom of my preview. Just keep moving your camera until everything is in full frame, unless you want to see some of the edges. And now let's select renderer 3D. And in the renderer type, let's go to OpenGL, and under enable, let's click on lighting. And let's go to our light. Under decay, let's set this to quadratic and move this over and up a little bit and back a little bit. And to make life a little bit easier, I'm gonna click on these 3 little dots and uncheck checker underlay. For the light, let's make it red. I'm gonna take the green and blue sliders and just drag them down. And if you need more intensity, we could, let's say, type in 2 here, maybe even 3. Maybe it's too bright, but we got a bigger slider to work with. You could also adjust the decay rate if you want more or less fall off. The next thing you're going to want to do is go into Shape 3D, click on your Materials tab. So you can start adjusting the intensity and the exponent. Also, if you want the diffuse color to change, we could click this arrow for the drop down. We can make this darker. Say maybe a darker color like this. Then if we want, we could take the intensity, crank that up, maybe like 3 or something around there, just to get a little bit more dramatic contrast, and shift around the exponent. We still got the light we can move around if we wanted it to be in a different spot. If we want 2 lights, we could just easily duplicate this light. Select the point light down here, press Control C, select the merge, press Control V. Now we got a second light, select it. Let's move that down to the other corner. And if we want, we could give it a different color and do the same thing. Control C for that one, select merge, press Control V. Getting a little bit crowded here. Move this one to another corner or a different spot like that. Bring it down a bit just to make it more subtle. And that's actually kind of nice. We've got the lighting effect. We got a look of a jersey blowing in the breeze. And we almost have a look that is similar to fire, which is really good for what we're working on. And now that I've got a bunch of lights, I might want to simplify this by selecting them, pressing Control G to group them, and pressing F2, call this lights, hit OK. So now we got our lights, and we can always double click if we want to see them. And the last part of this is adding the drop shadow to make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. So selecting render 3D. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to click on the three little dots up here, turn on checker underlay. And with this selected, I'm going to press Shift space bar, DROP, drop shadow, press 2 to preview that. So what I'm going to do is take the blur and just bring this all the way down to 0. And we kind of see the dark areas here. So what I want to do is adjust the angle, and I'm going to hold down Control once I get close and start dragging it. Okay, so let's take the drop distance and also change that. And you could adjust the shadow strength. That'll make it a little easier to see. Keep bringing this distance down. All right, something like that. And now I can see it's going at the wrong angle. Okay, so that seems to work. Distance can come down even a little bit more. And let's click the eyedropper and select the color from the actual image. Now that's a little bit bright, so let's take it down. All right, I don't want it to be completely black, but something like that. All right, so we could see it is subtle, but it does make a big difference from making it look like just a flat CG thing to almost realistic. Now things start to get a little messy in here, so you can always select everything and then right click on one of them and go to line up to grid. And now your nodes are a little bit cleaner. Compress these up here. And also, this is a good time to set up an underlay. So Shift space bar, UND, underlay, click off, Alt click on it, F2 to rename it, and we'll call this 3D mesh. And in the next step, we're going to add a background behind this with the team logo. So we're going to add this logo here. And when it gets merged together, it's going to look something like this. So stay tuned for that video.